Yeah. Talk to mommy. Say, hey, mommy, I love you.
Hey, mommy, I love you.
Say, I miss you.
I miss you.
Okay, so first of all, apologies for my absence over the last couple of days. I'll go into it in more depth in my next Jack and Lily video, rather than go over it twice, because I realise that there's a lot of people who follow my Jack and Lily content who don't necessarily follow the Genesis Reid story. So rather than repeat myself, I will explain it when I'm doing my Jack and Lily video. But Cliff Notes version, my little co-host, the snorer that you can hear down below the desk right now, has been very, very unwell for the last couple of days. We had an emergency visit to the vet on Monday, and things haven't been great. Anyway, I will go into that more in my Jack and Lily video for those of you who are wanting to find out. I had hoped to do this as a live stream, and I apologise for the absence of live streams. I know I normally would do live streams for me Monday, Tuesday mornings, but that went out the window as well, and I can't do this as a live stream today because I'm tethered to my phone. I'm waiting for a phone call from the vet for more stuff. So I can't really be live because obviously if I had a phone call from the vet, I would have to stop everything. So this update came through yesterday, and it's not surprising, but it's heartbreaking. So for anyone who's not familiar with Genesis's story, she was reported missing by her mother on the 16th of February this year. The mother contacted authorities and claimed that she had checked Genesis's room at 3 a.m. that morning and discovered that Genesis was missing, and claimed that her apartment door was open. She also made claims about a woman called Moira, and I think those claims were along the lines of that woman had Genesis. Meanwhile, her neighbours were extremely vocal, with authorities saying that they hadn't seen Genesis in quite some time. There was a claim by the person in like the rent office or whatever that they had seen her on like the 8th of January, 8th of February or something like that. But most people just couldn't remember when they saw her last. They just hadn't seen her in a long time. Genesis's father had last seen her on Christmas Day, and he was saying that after that, any attempts he had made to gain any access to Genesis, to see her or speak to her or anything like that, had been deflected by the mother, Adrianne. So she had been preventing him any access since Christmas Day. Law enforcement took in human remains detection dogs to the wooded area that's behind the apartments and came up with nothing. And that was about as much as we knew until possibly a week after, when the mother was arrested on charges of giving false information to law enforcement, making a false report. I can't remember the exact details in terms of the terminology, but there are videos in a playlist if you wanted to go back and watch those videos to get the full picture of what's happening with this case. One update that I hadn't given, I didn't know the origins at the time, and honestly I was extremely cynical, but it turns out that it was the family of Genesis's mother who were putting out flyers claiming that she had been last seen but with some man and in some sort of truck or something like that. Like I said, I didn't pay too much attention to it because How many times do we hear these cases where the child has vanished from their room overnight and the parent's totally clueless, and 90% of the time it ends up being a situation where the child was already deceased before that and the parent was involved. Obviously there's always the outliers, so there was the Elizabeth Smart case where she really was taken out of her bed and abducted, and that guy held her for quite some time before she was finally found. And she was found because her sister had seen the guy, and at the time she kind of recognised him but didn't know where she recognised him from, and eventually her brain just figured it out and she was like, I know who this guy is. But for the most part, when you hear stories of children going missing out of their beds, then usually you're going to find that a parent is involved. And of course the thing with this case is we never saw Adrianne Reid coming out and pleading for people to help her find her daughter. So yesterday we had this very, very sad update from law enforcement where the mother has been charged at least, but it seems that they know that Genesis is no longer alive and that her mother was responsible. So I'm going to start with a news article, or part thereof, because I'm not going to play them replaying the press conference because I'm going to play that after that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bayla Walker.
And I'm Alexa Daly. Thank you for joining us for News 4 at 6. Genesis Reid's mother killed her daughter, then put her remains in a duffel bag and threw them into a dumpster.
That's the claims of police and prosecutors who charged Adrianne Reid with capital murder and corpse abuse this afternoon. News 4's Jacqueline Lambert is in Enterprise, and Jacqueline, Adrianne Reid had long been the suspect.
Yes, she certainly had been, and now she could be given the death penalty for the death of her daughter, Genesis. The announcement of those charges was a very bittersweet and somber moment, marking the end of this part of the investigation, but concluding that Genesis is in fact dead, although the search for her body continues.
So I'm going to move on in a second and play the press conference. I just want to give credit to Shanitra Speaks. I'm not sure, I apologise if I've butchered the name. Gorgeous name, but it's not one that I'm familiar with. So this is a YouTube channel. I have got the links below for the 2 videos that I've sourced stuff from, and also the link to her channel. She seems like a pretty solid content creator. If you are interested in more of the background stuff with this case, she's got a lot of clips from family members and stuff like that, so she's gone deeper into the case than me, and she does seem to have done it in an extremely respectful way. So you will see some of the content after this because I'm going to share some things from her channel. As you can see, she's got those videos that I've shared. Pretty much all these photos that I am sharing with you have been sourced from her channel. So just giving a shout out to her, and just want to acknowledge all the hard work she's put into with this case. This is clearly something where she is following every single thing. So if you did want to dive deeper into this case than just the official stuff that I'm covering, then her channel is definitely the way to go. And I apologise for the traffic noise in the background. I usually pause my recording with the louder traffic noise, but as I mentioned at the start of this video, I've lost 2 days worth of recording. I'm way behind with my content, so I need to get this video done and a Jack and Lily video done today. So time is of the essence, so I'm just going to push on. So I'm going to jump into the press conference. I'm not going to interrupt. I'm just going to play it straight through so that you can catch all the information, and then I'll discuss it after.
Good evening. Thank you for everybody being here. On February 16th, on February 16th at approximately 3 a.m., Adrianne Reid reported to law enforcement that her daughter, Genesis Reid, was gone from the apartment and the exterior door was open. Through the course of our investigation, detectives developed sufficient probable cause to determine that the report was false. On February 17th, Adrianne Reid was arrested and charged with false reporting to law enforcement authorities, Class C felony, due to the report alleging imminent danger to a person. As investigators continued to follow leads and interview witnesses, information emerged indicating that Genesis had not been seen with Adrianne since Christmas Day. Through the careful, methodical work of investigators, we have reached a heartbreaking and horrific conclusion that her mother, her caretaker, the one that should have been there to keep her safe, willfully murdered Genesis and placed her in a duffel bag and discarded her in a dumpster. Today, March 9th, 2026, Adrianne Reid, the mother of Genesis Reid, had been formally charged with capital murder for the killing of a child under the age of 14 and abuse of a corpse. The last confirmed contact with family members occurred on December 25th, when Genesis visited relatives in Dothan for the Christmas holiday. That evening, she was returned to her residence in Enterprise with her mother. During the investigations, detectives obtained camera footage from a neighboring residence showing Adrianne walking toward the apartment complex dumpster with a rolling duffel bag at approximately 11:30 p.m. on Christmas night. 2 days later, additional footage captured Adrianne returning to the dumpster area carrying toys and other belonging to Genesis. Today's an especially heartbreaking day for our community. March 9th would have been Genesis' 3rd birthday. The loss of a child, the most precious and innocent members of our society, is something that cannot be ignored and will not be forgotten. The investigation is far from over. Our focus now turns to bringing Genesis home to the community that loved her. The search and rescue process will be long and difficult, but our resolve remains unwavering. We will continue working until Genesis is brought home. At this time, I will turn it over to Sheriff Byrd, who will provide an overview of the landfill recovery process.
Thank you, Chief Moore. It's a sad day in Coffee County. So we have been involved in this case since February 16th. I've had multiple investigators with this office, with them working and throughout this whole entire operation. And early on, I had a gut feeling this is where it went. So I had started initially calling and searching and filling, and we have contacts through the collection agencies that are really good friends of mine, and we started tracking this. So I initially went and got cadaver dogs and went to the landfill early on in this investigation. And at the beginning, they gave me we had about a 4 or 5 acre window. This landfill is over 100 acres of working space. But that does not deter us in any form or fashion. So as the investigation continued, we can proudly say that we narrowed it down between 200 and 100 feet square. Okay. Our landfill is probably one of the most modern landfills in the state of Alabama. They have drones they fly. We have GPS trackers on the bulldozers. We have GPS trackers on the packers. We have GPS trackers on the garbage trucks. We know where they are, when they are, and how they are at all times. So when the FBI and Enterprise Police Department and all the SBI gave us a date, we started dialing in. Investigators SBI worked round the clock, and it was just awesome. The FBI team, the car team, was tremendous in this. This search is going to be methodical, but we're not going to waver at any point looking for her. Now, I will say we have not put the first piece of equipment in the dirt. All we've done for the past, since February the 16th, or right after that, we've been plotting and searching. It's a 100-acre landfill. I want to ask the public to keep praying for us. This is going to take a while. I'm going to ask you for your patience. We are determined to find her. We're going to give I'm going to ask the surrounding agencies to send me personnel. We've got a team out of Atlanta coming that has found several 50-something in landfill. They're experts. They're going to show us how to excavate this. We're dialing it in. They're going to be here this week, and we will get started. We've already been started. So I want to sit here and thank the FBI, Enterprise Police. They have done tremendous work. SBI, the marshals, our sheriffs and deputies, the investigators, Enterprise. The community has reached out and helped us in every form and fashion that we know how, and that is tremendous. So, y'all keep us in your prayers. Thank you.
James Tarbox, District Attorney. Want to update you on the legal process. Adrianne Reid, as Chief said, has been formally charged with 1 count of capital murder for intentionally causing the death of a child under the age of 14, pursuant to Code of Alabama 13A 540 subsection A15. She has also been charged with 1 count of abuse of a corpse pursuant to Code Section 13A 1113, that is a Class C felony under the laws of the state of Alabama. She's now charged with a total of 3 felonies as a part of this investigation that began on February 16th. Capital murder under Alabama law is the intentional murder of someone with a legally recognized additional factor. In this case, subsection A15 is our additional factor, which is a victim under the age of 14. Genesis Reid was 2 years old. Abuse of a corpse is when a person knowingly treats a human corpse in a way that would outrage ordinary family sensibilities. Reid will have an initial appearance before District Judge Josh Wilson on the new felony charges later this week. She will be entitled to counsel. Based on procedures established under Code of Alabama 1513.3, she will be held without bond. She may later request a bond hearing, but the court is not under the strict time provisions set out for what we commonly refer to as an Anais law hearing. Under Alabama law, if we are successful in our prosecution for capital murder and Adrianne Reid is convicted, there are 2 possible punishments for a jury to decide: life without the possibility of parole or the death penalty. During the court proceedings of this case, our office will have to formally elect whether we are seeking the death penalty. I am committed at that time to fully evaluating the case file and evidence before making a final decision on the death penalty. However, I am formally announcing today that based upon everything I know at this point about this case, this is having been with our officers, our deputies, and our agents for most of this investigation, day in and day out since February 16th, our office will be seeking the death penalty in this case. The evidence shows that Adrianne Reid killed her 2-year-old daughter. She literally threw her in the trash. And then she engaged in a 53-day-long campaign of deceit, lies, manipulation, and as previously stated, destruction of evidence, before she finally made her false report on February 16th. Her conduct speaks for itself, and I believe this preliminary decision to seek the death penalty conforms to our community's beliefs about this case and our shared values about how we value and seek to protect the most innocent among us, our children. Mayor Cooper.
Mayor William E. Cooper, City of Enterprise. This is a very sad day for all of us, not just here at Enterprise, but across the country, our county, state, and beyond. I want to thank the law enforcement community and the many agencies who have worked so tirelessly on this case at every level. I am grateful for the support we have received from neighbors, friends, and people everywhere who have offered help, encouragement, and prayers. From the very start, our thoughts and our hearts have been with Genesis, and we have lifted up this little girl in our prayers. Now it is time to see that justice is done for her, and to bring some measures of peace and closure to everyone who has cared so deeply. May God continue to watch over our community and give us strength as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So, important part of this, like the mayor and DA said, is this is a small fraction of the individuals in this community that reached out and helped us in investigation. We have SBI with us, Aaliyah, my agency, Coffee County, the DA's office. So over the course of the past 21 days, this investigation involved approximately 8,000 combined working hours, with personnel often working 16 to 18 hours per day. Investigators have executed 37 search warrants, pursued 97 investigative leads with just our agency alone, and processed more than 5 terabytes of digital and physical evidence, with that number continuing to grow. Leads have taken investigators across multiple states, including Illinois, Texas, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and throughout Alabama. At any given time, more than 75 law enforcement officers from various agencies were directly involved in this case. We extend our sincere gratitude to the many agencies that provided unwavering support throughout this investigation. This is including, but not limited to, Aaliyah statewide agencies, the FBI local field office, the FBI Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team, the FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit, the Coffee County Sheriff's Office, the U.S. Marshal's Office, the Dothan Police Department, the Dale County Sheriff's Office, East Alabama Canine Search and Rescue, Southern Star Search and Rescue, Enterprise's CERT program, Enterprise Fire Department, Enterprise Rescue Squad, and the numerous municipal and state agencies that assisted with investigative follow-ups across the region. We are also deeply grateful for the countless calls and officers' assistance from law enforcement agencies and community organizations across the state who stood ready to help us in any way possible. This community has once again demonstrated its strength and compassion. In our darkest moments, the citizens and businesses of this area came together to support investigators and assist any way they could. Our community's honesty, cooperation, and willingness to help play a critical role in the progress made in this case. Without that partnership, the swift developments we have seen would not have been possible. Over the past weeks, our community has prayed together, supported one another, and hoped for a different outcome. Today we grieve together. While nothing can undo this senseless and heartbreaking loss, I take comfort in my faith. I believe that Genesis' earthly body is no longer what defines her, and that she is now in a place far greater than anything this world could offer, surrounded by love and power beyond our understanding. Scripture reminds us of the value of every child, and the words of Jesus gives me comfort. Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. That's all I have. We'll take questions, and I thank you very much for coming.
Just on that note, you all are all sporting some type of pink today. Talk about the motivation behind that on this somber day for the Enterprise community.
Well, again, that started with the community. Let's bring her home and wear pink. And I thought it would be fitting for us to continue to wear pink in support. This has touched every single one of us, the community. I know that the individuals behind me are exhausted, but they're pushing forward. And this gives us the motivation of remembering why we're doing this.
Doesn't the landfill serve multiple counties, not just Coffee County, that brings garbage in?
It does, but we've tracked this particular waste is put in the Coffee County landfill. I mean, we know that's where it goes. So I'm not gonna call the commercial distributor that does it, but they have been the best in this, and they have a modern equipment for modern trucks, so we are 95% confident this is where she's at.
And this happened on Christmas night, is that what I heard correct?
That's correct.
In
Late
Dothan?
Christmas night. What's that?
Was it in Dothan or was it?
No, sir.
No.
We have evidence that both Adrianne and Genesis were brought back to Enterprise to the apartment.
Mr. Tarbox, are you confident of a guilty verdict despite you all still working to recover the body?
So one of the things that it took us a long time to get to where we found that video, and you hate to be thankful for anything in a situation like this, but one of the things that I am thankful for is that the questions of could it have been something else. These people behind me and their colleagues have tracked down so many potential leads that we have determined not to be accurate. I feel much more confident in our case. I feel that the evidence that we have, our theory of the case, that is the case. And the fact of the matter is this. We will carry forward with that confidence. I never make any promises on any court case because no one can. At the end of the day, whether we are able to bring her home or not, our position does not change. This is our case, and we're going to prosecute it. We owe that to Genesis. We owe it to this community. We're going to take our best swing at ensuring that we get justice in this case.
Okay, so he mentioned those charges from the 17th of February. He mentioned the false reporting with imminent danger, which elevated it to a Class C felony. The other charges, which he didn't actually mention what they were, was tampering with evidence. Now, I do wonder, given that they already had her locked up, so there was no urgency in terms of when they brought these charges, I wonder if they intentionally chose for it all to happen on Genesis's third birthday, what should have been her third birthday, because it does seem like that could be a possibility, which, you know, kudos to them if that is the case, because it is, you know, acknowledging her and giving a little bit of power back for her, I guess. But it's just so heartbreaking thinking that this happened on Christmas Day. So this beautiful little girl would have been given presents by family that she never got to play with. I think that in terms of once Genesis is found, now obviously we will not be privy to the autopsy. That information won't come out till trial. But it seems to me that we can expect that there was violence involved. He spoke about a horrific conclusion and willfully murdered, which do indicate or do point towards violence, do point to her losing it and doing something violent with Genesis. We know she has a history of violence. She attacked her own mother with a knife, stabbed her multiple times, so that information came out not long after Genesis went missing. So it seems like there is a good chance that when Genesis is found that we are going to need to brace ourselves, because we are probably going to hear things like blunt force trauma, that sort of thing. He referred to footage from a neighbouring residence in terms of what she took out to the dumpster, the duffel bag and then the toys and stuff. He's saying that this was 11:30 p.m. Christmas night that she was seen taking the duffel bag out. I'm wondering if this was actually door cam footage or something else, because there was a neighbour who was talking about having filmed her burning things. We haven't heard any more from that we didn't hear anything about that in this press conference, but it seems like there may be a few people in that area who were filming her doing things that they thought were suspicious. And them saying that they also have footage of her taking toys and other belongings of Genesis's 2 days afterwards, that would suggest to me that when they went into that apartment after she was reported missing, that they probably noticed things were missing, things were gone. If you did watch the other videos that I've done on this case, one of the neighbours filmed FBI leaving with boxes full of things from that apartment. So it would appear that from the get-go they realised what was going on, and they may have taken the remainder of Genesis's things from that apartment and ran forensics on them. And of course you can also bet that forensics have gone through that apartment with a fine-toothed comb. So if there is any forensic evidence there to be found, they will have found it. So what he was saying about retrieval of her remains, this sounds quite promising. It certainly sounds like they are determined that they are going to get an outcome here. And he's talking about it being long and difficult, but at the same time he's talking about bringing in experts from Atlanta, and he was saying these people have found 50 sets of remains in landfills, so they clearly know what they're doing. But thank heavens for all that modern technology. To be able to track the contents of a dumpster down to an area that they have got it down to a 100 to 200 foot square area, that is pretty damn impressive. And with the experts coming in, it sounds like they've got a pretty good chance of finding her remains. And something I do want to mention here, because this is a frustration that I have with some cases. He's showing here how willing they are to work with other agencies. They have involved the FBI. They are now bringing in experts from Atlanta because their goal here is to get the results. They're not being precious about their case, which we've seen with other cases. So I think because they are so willing to work with other agencies, we are going to see a conviction. And I honestly do believe that this is not going to be a nobody case. I think from what he's saying that they do have a pretty damn good chance of finding Genesis, and that will go a long way to helping convince a jury. But I mean, he's saying here that they've got more than 5 terabytes of digital and physical evidence. If that was solid stuff, that would be boxes and boxes and boxes of evidence. That is a heck of a lot of physical and digital evidence. And it's early days. In a case like this, the investigation doesn't stop once an arrest has been made. So they are going to be continuing to interview people, continuing to gather additional evidence, continuing to develop tasks from the evidence that they've collected from the interviews that they've made. So by the time this goes to trial, I suspect this is going to be rock solid. I really hope that is the case. Now, he spoke about the FBI's card team, and I've mentioned them a few times before in relation, I'm not sure if I mentioned them in relation to this case, but I have mentioned them before. They are the Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team. As the name suggests, their main role is they basically jump into action if there is an abduction. But they also assist with cases like this. They are the most experienced when it comes to any sort of crimes relating to missing children. So they will quite often be brought in with cases like this. They have the knowledge, they have the experience, but they also have the access to a massive range of tools, FBI tools, that can help progress a case. So as soon as you've got the card team involved, then you've got a big boost to your case, straight up. And when you do use the card team, the FBI card team, they have connections. They are, I guess, part of that is use of the behavioural analysis team. So they would have been doing a behavioural analysis. They would have been doing an assessment of Adrianne. So they would have brought a lot to the party in terms of the investigation, and what they have contributed will also make a huge difference when this goes to trial. Now, he spoke about what charges they have now brought against her. So she's now up on a charge of capital murder, intentionally causing the death of a child under the age of 14. So that is the intentionally causing the death of a child under the age of 14. That's an additional factor. That is going to escalate this. And that means that she is in it deep, basically. I can see why he is going for the DP, because I think it warrants it. And this is coming from an Australian who lives in a country where we abolished that over 60 years ago. But just lately, some of the cases I've seen, I'm starting to understand why it's not been abolished in the United States. I felt the same way about Stephen Stearns with the Madeline Soto case. And I think there are some cases that are just so horrific that it certainly needs to be a consideration. And it's something that that is a dilemma for me to say that, because I always had this notion that stems from the being Australian, coming from that idea that we demolished that whole thing in Australia because it was cruel and barbaric. And now that I'm looking at cases like this and I'm thinking, well, actually, is it really? So certainly it's challenged my own beliefs, and I'm not going to go into that further, but I just did want to mention that. He also mentioned abuse of a corpse, which is a Class C felony. Now, in terms of Class C felonies, and this is important because you never know what a jury is going to decide. You may think you have a tight case, and then for some reason you might have, I would refer to a rogue jury, but that's probably not an accurate thing, just a jury that doesn't go the way you expected. But you have now 2 Class C felonies. I can't remember what the tampering with evidence came under. I think that was a lower felony. But 2 Class C felonies. And if you were watching the videos that I've done of this case previously, there is a level of discretion for the judge to actually increase the sentencing for Class C felonies. So let's say worst case scenario, this goes to trial, and for some reason a jury decide not to give a guilty verdict on the murder claim, but they decide that they have proved their case for abuse of a corpse. Well, the judge actually has the discretion to extend the sentence to that case to the extent where she's never going to get out. He can't give a life sentence, but I think it was like 66 years or 99 years or a really, really long time, which would ensure that she never gets out, basically. So they have 2 Class C felonies there as, I guess, backup sentences. I think she will get a conviction. I would be surprised if a jury did not give a conviction on this case, and that's without even knowing what is in that 5 terabytes of evidence. And look, when I was listening to this the first time round, I must admit I wasn't paying full attention to what was being said. This was yesterday when I'd had about 2 hours sleep. I was waiting for a phone call from the vet. I was stressed, so I wasn't taking it all in. And I thought at first that he was giving the impression that they weren't entirely confident about getting a conviction. But from listening to it again, I realise where he's coming from. This is his normal approach. He's just saying, he's acknowledging that factor that exists with every case, that you never know what a jury is going to do. And you can sometimes be surprised. You just have to look at the Casey Anthony case. Who expected her to walk free? And Kristen Smart, the father of Paul Flores. With that case, there was so much evidence that Kristen's remains had been under the father's deck for a very, very long time and had been removed shortly before they went in looking for them. But even though that was like solid in terms of convicting Paul, there were separate juries for Paul and for his father Reuben, and Reuben's jury decided not to convict him despite that solid evidence. So you never know what the situation is going to be. So I think he's just being a little bit cautious, because what he did say, he refers to them having ruled out that it could have been something else. And this is significant because it makes it easier for them to prove their case beyond reasonable doubt, because it means that a defence attorney isn't going to come in and run with another theory, something that has been reported, and say it's possible that she's innocent because it could be this. So what they're saying is they have chased down every lead, every suggestion, and they have proved those things to be not true, not real. So at this point in time, there is nothing that a defence attorney can come back with and say, here is another possible scenario. You'll notice he mentioned that she would be going before the judge later this week. We're not going to hear anything of that until after she has been before the judge. They're going to keep that very, very quiet. It may even be an after-hours thing, simply because even though she is accused, even though what she has been accused of is absolutely horrendous, they still have this duty to protect her, and they know that the community is going to be riled up, so they don't want any sort of incidents when they take her to court and take her in front of the judge. So either it will be something that's kept very hush-hush, no one will know when it occurs, or it will be done by remote and she'll only be doing it via Zoom. If you've seen how fired up the community was just when the baby was missing, then you will realise that there's probably a very good chance that she will not set foot in a courtroom physically until the trial. I think any of the pre-trial things will be done with her remaining in the jail and attending via Zoom. I may be wrong. They may just bring her and have a heavy presence with her, but it also wouldn't be surprising if we do see that she does not actually physically attend court. So I had to look up Aniah's law because I hadn't heard of it, but it is a legislation that exists in Alabama, and it comes from a 2019 case of a college student by the name of Aniah Blanchard, and she was reported missing and was later found, her remains were found in a wooded area. The person who ended up being responsible for it had actually been out on bail for a separate kidnapping and attempted murder charge. So as a result of that, they brought in Aniah's law, and this gives judges more discretion. It gives them the authority to deny bail to individuals who've been charged with serious crimes if they feel that it is in the public interest. So if it is going to protect the public from an individual that could pose a significant risk to society. I think it would be fair to say that she would definitely come under that, given that we know that she has previously attacked her mother. So I'm not sure if that will be a separate hearing to her going in front of the judge this week, but basically there will be a hearing with the judge where the district attorney presents the case and says, I think she is going to be a threat to society. Here is the history. We don't want her to be given bail. And of course, she's going before the same judge that she saw in February. This was the judge who gave her the massive, massive bond. So I think we can be pretty confident that he is actually going to make a ruling under this law and that she will not get bail. So she's not going anywhere at all, anytime in the near future. So the attorney mentioned that she kept this charade up for 53 days. That is phenomenal. And I can't help wondering if she believed that by keeping it up that long, basically there would be no evidence left. That there would have been so many more loads go to that landfill area that they would not be able to locate Genesis's remains. She probably had no understanding of the use of GPS and drones and stuff in these landfill areas, so she probably felt confident that by holding off on making this false report that she was going to have no evidence and she would get away with this. That is going to be something that is going to be considered an aggravating factor if she is convicted. So if they are going for the death penalty, then that is certainly going to add weight to that. He said that that's his goal. He wants to go for the death penalty, but he said that that's not his final decision, essentially. He's going to review the file at a later date. I guess that comes down to after Genesis has been found and they have a bit more information. There may be things that could come into it that could be considered mitigating circumstances by a defence, and it may be that it's going to be harder to get the death penalty. There may be something that is going to work in her favour. I don't know. I can't see what there could possibly be, but that's where he's coming from in terms of saying that that's what he wants, but he has to review evidence first. Now, one question I have is, and it's not something that was asked by the media, it's possible that they were told not to ask that question, but my question is, will there be anybody else charged in relation to this case? Now, it certainly seems that in terms of what happened, that Adrianne worked on her own, that she did this on her own. But the big question here, and you may have seen, I showed a few different screenshots from Sinatra Speaks, and one of those was a screenshot with the grandmother and her making a comment on the 4th of February talking about missing her granddaughter. And there's been conversation that she may have been aware of what happened. There has been talk of her perhaps sending a message to Genesis's father on that same day, which may have suggested that Genesis was deceased. So in that case, she could end up being charged as an accessory. We haven't heard anything more on that, and obviously if that is something that is going to happen, then they're going to keep that tight to their chest until they have enough evidence to make an arrest. But it is something that I'm curious about because of the text messages we've seen there. But at the same time, there's also talk from the grandmother that this thing that Adrianne would do of putting off allowing the father to see Genesis, this is something that she was doing in the past as well. So people are saying, well, how come the father wasn't reporting because he couldn't see his daughter? How come he didn't see red flags? But what we are hearing from various sources is that this was standard for Adrianne, and that she also had done it with her own mother at times. So it is possible that these posts by the grandmother could simply have been in reference to her daughter not allowing her to see her granddaughter, or that's what she thought the situation was. She thinking that Adrianne was just playing her usual games and denying the father access, denying her access, and that nothing else was the situation. I think we'll hear more on this as we get closer to trial, probably. I'm going to play a few excerpts from this Shanitra Speaks. These are videos that were done by a neighbour. This is the person who was in the last press conference that we saw. They mentioned that there had been accusations with regards to this Moira, and that they had spoken to a person and she was not the Moira, and they were saying essentially, stop the vigilantism, this is not Moira, leave her alone, that kind of thing. With the arrest having been made, this woman has come out, and it appears that she has like a TikTok or something like that, and she's made her own statement. I will warn you ahead of time. Now, I haven't put in the entire clip. If you want to watch the entire clip, the links for that are in the description of this video, like I said, and you can go over to this other channel and watch the full clip. I will just say that you need to listen carefully to try and understand what she is saying. It's, for me as an Australian, it's a different kind of language to me. So I struggled and I had to get help from people to understand what was going on. But I will play you a few excerpts of audio because I think they could be important.
Moira, they said they knew for a fact I was. And the police told me my kids was dragged out the car and filmed on camera, screaming at the top of their lungs, telling the police my mama named Nessa. Y'all got me messed up. I'm not letting up about my kids.
So you'll hear more on that in a moment, but that was camera footage of this woman that people claimed was Moira, and they basically dobbed her in, and then someone apparently filmed her by the looks of it. And this is what we were hearing about in that last press conference. And you are going to hear from this woman in a moment. It sounds like she's quite upset by the experience. And I can imagine, because she was pulled over, pulled out of her car. And it seems like they pulled her children out of the car also. It sounds like maybe one of her children, maybe a similar age to Genesis, because they were asking who the children were. So it sounds like it was traumatic for her and her children.
Oh God, y'all do. Oh, my mama, y'all got me. Seriously, I wasn't gonna say nothing. I was just gonna let this, die. But fuck everything to say. Y'all folk got me. My mama got me all the way. Seriously. First and foremost, fuck, man, a bitch followed my car and put the police on my car. Told them folks that they knew I was the Moira girl of the girl out of the little situation. I always complied since day one, talked to the police. I don't fucking know nothing but what the girl said, that the baby was with her daddy. Folks trying to just sit there and talk and make their own little stories to shit and shit, man. Ain't no none of that. Ain't nobody pulled me over. Them folks put them folks on my car, literally, and told them folks that they knew for a fact I was the girl Moira. Cause everybody know me, anybody know. When it comes to them kids, bro, I don't play, period, at all with my kids, anybody kids, never. Fuck, y'all know this, my name Nessa. Fuck, no Moira, no none of that.
So I will stop it there because there is a lot of language that comes out. But like I said, you can go over to, you can follow the links if you want to watch the full version of this. but I'll give you a rundown of the full thing that she said here rather than play it through. So at the beginning you probably heard her say that she was just going to let it die away, but basically it sounds like there's been a lot of conversation in the neighbourhood about her, people accusing her of being this Moira, and she's saying that she knows nothing. She had been told apparently that the baby was with her father, and she's very upset in terms of possibility of accusations about how she looks after her own kids. So I think there's some distress there over associations with this woman. And like I said, she was talking about herself being pulled over by the cops, asking about her kids, and she was dragged out of her car. There may have been some accusations made against her for not acting on something that she saw some time back, and I will play a little bit of that audio as well, because she's talking about, you know, she was only doing her best to be there for a struggling mother, and she's saying everybody struggles and she wasn't judging. It's a different kind of community there, so not my place to say anything on that. But she was quite concerned. She was saying that they took her phone, and she seemed quite concerned that they would find incriminating evidence on her phone. I'm pretty certain she's not talking about incriminating evidence with regards to Genesis. I think she was afraid that they may have found things on her phone that they would charge her for that have nothing to do with Genesis. I hope that they explained to her that in terms of taking her phone to find out about this case, to rule things out with her this case, that anything else that they found on her phone that would be incriminating, that is not related to this case, they cannot bring charges against her. Because if they had a warrant for that phone, then that warrant would only cover that phone for searching for anything in connection to the missing or the disappearance of the child. So anything else discovered on that phone cannot be used to prosecute her for any other crimes, because that is not covered within the warrant. And of course she also expressed concerns. She said she has some teenage sons, and she expressed concerns of her sons seeing that footage of her being dragged out of the vehicle, or hearing the things that were being said about her, and she was worried what they were going to think, I guess. She was also saying how much it has traumatised her and her children, and that her children actually used to play with Genesis, so that just adds to the trauma of it. Like I said, if you want to see the full version of this, the link is in the description below for my video, so you can go over and watch this video or any of the other videos that she's done in relation to this case, because she really has done a thorough deep dive. Now, there was some more audio that I was going to play in relation to all this, but I think I'm just going to leave it at that. It's stuff that I got from this other channel, so there's those two videos that are linked if you want to hear more of the sort of up close and personal deep dive sort of stuff. You can hop over and watch those videos, and even if you wanted to hear more of what this Nessa woman was saying, it's there in full on this other channel. So look, I think we knew this was the outcome that we were headed for, but to hear it actually said, and to actually hear them talking about her, throwing her away like trash, it is so confronting, it is so upsetting, particularly when we have these beautiful photos of this gorgeous little girl, and we realise that, just to make it even worse, this happened on Christmas Day. So, that's meant to be the most magical time of the year for children, and this woman destroyed that. So I guess now we wait. We will hear the outcome of her court appearance sometime within the next week, and hopefully sometime soon they will be telling us that they have found Genesis's remains also. But I feel confident from what he has said that even if they go to trial without a body, that they are quite likely going to get a conviction. So I think we are going to see justice for this poor baby. The question is, will they be able to bring her home and lay her to rest properly? And let's just pray that that happens. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I will be keeping you posted on things as this case progresses. Remember, if you do go over to the other channel and watch her content, please remember to hit the like button for her as well and leave comments for her. Feel free to tell her that Ninchi sent you over, because clearly she's put a lot of time and work into what she's presented. So certainly if you're going over there, make sure you show your support. So on that note, thank you for listening. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. Help me to grow my channel a little bit. Also, please hit that like button because that does get this out there in the algorithm. I know there's not a lot of people covering this case at this point in time. I suspect there may be more once this information gets out there, but we do want this story to be heard. We want Genesis to be remembered. We want her story to be told. And of course, please leave a comment below. So on that note, thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Into